You have checked into my podcast, a knitting podcast. My name is Merete, and on Instagram and Ravelry and here on YouTube, my name is MereteKdesign or MereteKdesign. I am planning on talking about some of my latest designs today. There are 4 I can show you, and one of them I just finished this week, so I'm quite excited about showing that, and I think I will show you that as the last one. It's been a while, more than 2 years I think, before I got around to try and make a podcast again. So I'm a bit shaky, and I hope that you will bear over with me. So it's not going to be a very long podcast because I think I'm just going to go through the designs that I've been working on, and and then hopefully there will be more podcasts ongoing where I can present the things that I've been doing. So let's just hit it. And if you're not into knitting, then you can find some other channel to follow on YouTube. But let's start with what I'm wearing. This design, I'm just gonna stand up so you can see it more closely, is named Cherry on Top. And there's a pattern for it on Ravelry. It's in English. And you should bear in mind that because I'm using my front camera on my phone to record this, then everything is mirrored. I didn't think this would be an issue, but it could be because some people may misunderstand what is right and left. But this is my right shoulder and this is my left shoulder. So this is a really fun knit, asymmetrical. It's kind of like a poncho, so on Instagram I call it Cherry on Top poncho. And there's a few other people who has posted pictures, so you can go and see other versions of it. It's knitted on a 4.5mm needle with 2 strands of fingering weight yarns held together. So there's many options for modeling more colors together and see how they work. And let's see, for instance, this turquoise pink color that has been modeled here with a grayish color is the same one I used here, modeled together with this really bright purple. And the bubbles are also 2 strands of fingering weight yarn held together, but I used more solid colors for the bubbles for them to stand more out. So for instance, just this pink is just 2 strands of pink held together. And it's worked. You bring in here on your right shoulder, and you knit this square from here to here. Actually, you can't see it, but when you knit the back, you pick up stitches from your cast on edge and work the way back. So this triangle here is actually 2 pieces, but it's the same size as the other pieces. So this one is supposed to be right on your shoulder. So you begin here, and this is just garter stitch in the first triangle. Then you make the bubbles, and then there is seed stitch, bubbles, garter stitch, bubble, seed stitch, bubbles, garter stitch, bubbles, seed stitch, bubbles, garter stitch, bubbles, and then stockinette stitch, bubbles, no sorry, seed stitch, bubbles, and stockinette stitch on the other sleeve. And the wedges here are knitted using the short row technique. And in my pattern, I describe an option for resizing the poncho by casting on more stitches or less stitches, and then you have to place your short rows turns. You have to like even them out so you get an equal triangle up. I recommend when knitting these short rows triangles that you use removable stitch markers. So before you start the short rows, place the markers, and then you know that you have to knit to the first marker here. You can take it out, knit it back, then knit to the next marker, take it out, knit back, and so forth. And that makes it a lot easier to keep track on where to place the turns. I was looking up on on YouTube on how to do different turns. Originally, I used the turns that I learned from Stephen West projects, but I found a YouTuber who has made a test of different types of turns in garter stitch, and the one that she recommended and made totally sense when you see it. I can see if I can remember to add the link to this YouTube video underneath here in the show notes so you can find it as well. But the technique is just you knit to the place where you want to turn. Then you wrap your yarn around the next stitch and then you knit back. It's called just wrap and turn. But what's different with this technique is that when you get to the end of all your turns and you knit the first row across all your turns, then you don't do anything about the wraps, because this wrap places itself around a purl stitch. When you go the opposite way, it's kind of hard to explain. And then, but the wrap just lays like the purl bump that is in front of a stitch, so you can't see the wrap, so you don't have to work it, and the turns just kind of magical, like get in between the knitting without you being able to see it. So it's really easy, and I think everybody can do it. Okay, so when you have knitted this part with the triangles and bubbles, you need knit a section with the stockinette stitch, and you can knit it as wide or as slim as you want, and then you can make your neckline smaller or larger depending on what you like. And when you finish this, you knit up to the shoulder here, and then you put your stitches on hold for the front part. Then you pick up the stitches from the cast on edge and knit the back. And I recommend using the same 2 strands here so you get this wide triangle, but you can do whatever you want. And it's totally mirrored what you do on the back, except you don't knit the bubbles. And the techniques are of course mirrored. And then you also knit up to the shoulder point here. And then you place all the stitches on from the front and the back on one needle, so you're able to knit back and forth over the shoulder. And at the same time you make some decreases here over the shoulder to make it fit. And then again, I have some modifications tips in my pattern for making it bigger. For instance, you can knit it as wide as you want, but also if you want to end it here, but want some more fabric here, you can do some short rows here to fill a bigger gap at the bottom and make it smaller up here. I described that in the pattern as well. And then it will get more, instead of a straight line here, it will go more out here and be able to fit you if you have a bigger circumference around your stomach. The sleeves are also adjustable. In the pattern I describe how to get this fitted sleeve. You make measurements on yourself and determine how many stitches you need as your circumference here, and then you just knit it straight down with no decreases and end it with this bubble cast on or off, or bind off, sorry. And I forgot to tell that if you haven't followed me before, I have some issues on writing patterns and grading them and testing with lots of people because I suffer from chronic exhaustion in my head. So there are things that I can't do. So my patterns comes in one size, but I usually always include different thoughts and tips and techniques on how to resize it. And also I make my patterns available at a variable price on Ravelry, so you can choose the price you like to pay for it. So that's kind of my way to make it accessible for everyone, in how I'm able to do it. So yeah, so this one is really fun. I've seen some really nice versions of it, and one of them is a more black and gray version by Christine in Germany, and she made this with lots of black and gray colors in the bottom, and then the bubbles were like neon and like more bright colors. So I was really envious of that version. I really like that. Unfortunately, I'm really poor at working with black and gray and white colors, so I don't think I'm able to do one as well. But I am thinking about doing something, doing it again, but like using mohair, like making a really light version with mohair. That could be really nice, I think. So we'll see if I ever get around to it. Yes. So this is cherry on top poncho, if you want to look it up on Instagram. And so now we are moving on to the next design. One moment. Yes. This is actually my husband's sweater, so it's all very too big on me. But this is my design of a men's sweater called the Shadoves sweater. And it's a DK weight yarn that I've used here. I think on 4mm needles as well. I dyed the yarn myself. It's a really dark main color, the gray, that has been used on the sleeves and the neck. And then the contrast color is a light gray with a little speckles in it. And the reason why I call it the Shadoves sweater is because this technique I used here gives this shadow effect that when you look it on the side, see if I can see, yeah, you can see it here, how it looks dark, a vertical dark stripe here and a vertical light stripe here. The technique is worked by, if I get really close you can see it. Here you can see that the bottom color is the light gray and the top color is the dark gray that has been pearled, and on the other side the bottom color is a dark gray and the top color with the pearled side is a light color. So when you angle it, you can see the pearled rows more than the stockinette knit rows, and this gives this effect of shadows. Also, these stripes are just slip stitches, so you get some vertical stripes here as well, with the shadow stripes, and also stripes the other way, the horizontal way, of course. And I really like this kind of way of making a rib. So I did that also on the bottom. Oops, sorry, that was my stomach. The first version I made for my dad, I only did this shadows pattern in the the yoke. And then it was just plain main color on the body and sleeves. One moment, I need to take it off. Whew, that was warm. Sorry about that. So yeah, it is really fun to knit this sweater and see how the shadow effect emerge. Is just really fun when you sit with the work, and you can just see how it is, and so fun. So I really like this pattern, and it's a one size as well, but also with tips on how to modify the size. And this size is what I would call a large for a men's sweater. I'm actually thinking about if I have time enough to knit a women's version with some more pink colors for myself, because it's just really nice, and then make it cropped instead. So that's kind of what I have of thoughts on it. Yeah. So the same with the price, variable price structure. It's the same as the cherry on top. So if you like it and you're nervous about the size, you can get it for a reasonable price, or even as for free. Yes, that's the shadow sweater. Yes, this is a top that is quite new. Is it like 3 weeks old, I think? Maybe not even. I saw a picture of Jennifer Aniston wearing a asymmetrical dress, and I thought it was so cool. So I'm thinking about how I could think in the same term but not do a copy. So her dress was one sleeved, and there were no what do you call this, string or here, but had this like cut in the dress, so it, and with like either a bra or just a fabric that was put in here, so it kind of looked like a dress that was cut in with something underneath, and I thought that was really neat. So I had to draw different ideas and think how could I use this concept of something asymmetrical without doing a copy, but doing something that was me. So I came up with this design. You can see it a bit close. So it got bubbles because I like bubbles, and also the squares, and the set-in panels. I thought that was really neat, and I also love this, how this comes down in kind of an arrow, and of course it looks quite different on the back than in the front. So I was thinking about making a pattern for this, but haven't really felt motivation for it. I think I have to modify the design a bit before I write a pattern. There's something I kind of feel is off. Like this color, for instance, I know this is, I could just change this, so, but in a way I didn't want it to go up in a V neck here. I kind of wanted to go more like over across here, and I don't know quite how that would look, but you would still get this part come up the shoulder. But that's kind of some of the considerations. And then I kind of got this idea, what if I had just made this piece a lot wider so it would dangle more like here? I think that could be pretty cool to exaggerate that. And maybe because this one has been knitted, like you start with it at the corner here, and then you just make increases to make this triangle, and then you knit it up here, the front piece, and then you knit this part on top of the front piece, and then you kind of make a mirrored back, and again begin at the corner here and knit up the back. What if you were to knit the two triangles from the front and the back, and then you were joining the work and knit it all together up here as one piece? Not that it would be a big difference, but then you wouldn't need to seam the sides together. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. I don't think I would change anything here. This is just a panel that is knitted onto the front and back piece as a triangle. So you start here at the corner and knit it together with the front piece, and then when it's wide enough here at the bottom, you knit it together with the back piece. This width is kind of a twist on the design as well, because if I were to come with recommendation on how to make it bigger, this would be an easy place to add some more stitches. But also I'm afraid that this part up here would be way too wide on a person. Like, it's already a big opening for my arm, but it's okay. But imagine if you made it twice the width, what would happen? Like, I'm not sure that would work completely. So if you are a larger person around the waist, the fabric would go like this maybe and pull. So I would have to somehow describe how you could add some more fabric at the bottom, but makes increases to the top, so it wouldn't get too large up here. Oh, I don't know. So you can hear I have my doubts about it, but I thought it could be really fun if this part was wider, so it was hanging more down the shoulder and dangling here. That could be cool. So I decided, that's just a message I have for you. I've decided not to publish this pattern right now and just see how it develops in my head and if I want to do some changes. So, but other, other than that, the fit is really nice, and it's comfortable. So it's actually okay. So, but for now, I'm going to just put it on hold for a bit and see what it develops itself to. By the way, the yarn is something I dyed myself as well as the sweater, the shadow sweater. So it's really fun to see your own dyed yarn, how it develops and how it is knit up. That's kind of fun. Yeah, so I'm gonna find the next design. Oof. There's colors on this one. Ooh. What do you think? It's brand new. Okay. That was a show off, huh? Well, after knitting the top here, I felt I needed to knit something that was less squared and more feminine. And I had designed this cardigan a while back, and it's a fun story in a way because the thoughts that I had on this design was a bit different. I wanted the big puff sleeves, but with a different shape in a way. And then I had this thought on knitting. Well, this I can just start by saying that this has been knitted from here and the way up here. So in a different direction that you would normally knit. And then you knit two pieces where it's a bit different from left to right because of the front pieces has this more uneven line down, and then when you have knitted these two pieces, you knit the pieces together with a back panel. So the process of knitting it is really easy, and but the design process took a while because I had to unravel many times. That's kind of just how it is sometimes when you design yourself. Then you have to it doesn't really work out the way you thought it would. But I have this thought, a vision in my head that this would go really well over a fitted dress with a really big puff sleeve, or maybe just a dress that is a bit fitted and then this one on top. So yeah, I'm a little blown away about showing it because I don't get the big applause at home from my daughters and husband. So when I design something, then it's often first when I tell about it on Instagram that I get any kind of the kind responses. Sorry. Yeah, that was not nice said about my husband and daughters. They're really supportive, but they don't always understand what I'm working on. And I have been unraveling this one a lot, and so it's been in progress for quite a while and looking a lot different. But what I really like about it is that I've used some new knitting techniques that I really feel work well together. So these cuffs on the sleeves is a blackberry stitch pattern. Then the puff sleeves is the brioche honeycomb technique. And this part up here is a slip stitch pattern called dimples. How it's knit is that you determine how big your upper arm is, and then you find out the cast on stitches. I give you sorry, I'm talking about a pattern that I'm writing for it. So I've been trying to determine how you can figure out the cast on stitch, and I have instructions for that. And then there is a bit of an increase, not a lot, but a little. And you knit this honeycomb brioche pattern, and it just has a, a different gauge from the blackberry stitch, so that's why it's a lot more puff, fluffy, fill more. And then again, when you're done, you do a bit of decreases back to the same amount almost as for the cuffs. And then you kind of work a increase section here that reminds of what's the name of it? It's a special shoulder construction. I can't remember what it is, but you increase on both sides on every round, which give a really fast increase, and the angle is not large of the knitted. So you knit this in the round, and then there's a few increases on the shoulders to make a fitted shoulder. Yeah, and then when you have reached the top of your shoulder and you can decide now you are finished with this body part, you start knitting this purple part on, and this is not knitted in round, it's just knitted back and forth and with short rows again, and you can place stitch markers again according to your own stitch number. And then you finish off with an I-cord edge here, and you just make it longer for the strings. And then you just knit a garter rows panel to join the two pieces together. It's actually a really easy pattern if you know the two color honeycomb brioche. Everything else is gonna be real easy to work with. One thing that I'm really unsure about when doing this pattern, I always give it a lot of thoughts on how I can come with resizes recommendations, and it's not difficult to make the sleeve different in size, but if, for instance, the sleeve is much bigger in size than when you begin this part here, this will also get longer because there's more stitches up here, so this part would get longer, and then it won't get this really short cropped fitted version. So I'm not really sure about what to recommend here, but if you have any ideas, please tell me. So yeah, I'm really proud of this because sometimes I go really crazy on colors, and this one got like 3 colors, like the really neon color and the purple, and of course there's more hand-dyed yarn colors. These are 2 strands held together for a DK weight on, and it's all knitted in 4.5mm needles. But if you want, you can use DK weight all throughout. I actually also used 2 strands of fingering for the pink here, but I could have used a DK weight as well. And for the puffs, maybe you can see, I added a strand more of some glitter yarn, and it's only for this part here, the brioche section. So there's a little more spark to the puff sleeves. I like that a lot. Yeah. What else should I say about this? Oh yeah, and the purple yarn is a really thick yarn. It's a Mayflower sweet. So it's kind of a fluffy, heavy brushed something alpaca. I think the recommended needle size is 6, so the gauge is different from the rest. But I really like this texture and adding it as a fluffy background for the honeycomb brioche. Of course, when I knitted it, all this was really bubbling and not really flat. So when you have finished it, you need to block it flat and really flatten out these sections. But I think it looks really good now. Yeah, so I just need the right dress for this one. So I had to order one the other day. That's just how it is. But I'm really, really satisfied with it. Yeah, so for once I didn't go totally crazy on colors. So yeah. What else? I'm working on a couple of other things. I have 2 other designs. One is a shawl that I've been working on for about 2.5 years. That will not become a pattern if I ever finish it. It's just too difficult to describe what I've been doing. And the other one I've been working on since the new year. So I'm actually thinking about taking that out and finishing it because it doesn't need much more work before it's finished. But we'll see. I can't really promise what comes off my hands. It just depends on a lot of things and what I'm just in the mood for. Yeah, that was a little round trip on my own newest designs. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and thanks for your interest in my designs. It means the world when people comment on Instagram and letting me know I have a place in the knitting world. I'm really excited about that. So thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye.